Okay, welcome back. This is video number 3, and in this video we are going to move forward with deploying Azure components. So in the last video we completed the deployment plan. We talked about the different things that we're going to deploy, the different schools, that sort of thing. So in this video we're going to talk about what is actually required in Azure. Before we switch over to the portal, what I plan to point out in this video is that we already have a VNet for Azure infrastructure, and that we already had a DC in that VNet out in Azure. So we're going to pretend that already exists because I've already deployed that in Azure. We're also going to deploy this Recovery Services Vault. Okay, so we're going to go through the process of deploying that. I have already in advance deployed the storage accounts named here, as well as this VNet and associated subnets. If you missed our video series on ADFS deployment in Azure, which you can find at this URL, we walk you through the deployment of storage and networking components there. So video 3 in that series is storage, video 4 is networking. So if you need a little bit of a refresher on how to deploy those components, go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, with that said, let's switch over to the portal. Here's the portal. I have a number of resource groups defined, and again, these are basically demarcation points for different solutions. For example, I deployed my ADFS deployment from our last video series in this resource group. Everything I'm going to deploy for this video series is going to go in this resource group for Azure Site Recovery Backup Vault. Now, I want to show you one other thing quickly before I move into that resource group, and that is that I already have a network defined out here in the infrastructure resource group called Azure Infrastructure. This is the one that I basically have alluded to on our drawing. And you can see if I take a look at this that it has the subnet space we have in our drawing. And it also has a number of subnets defined in advance. In addition to that, I have a domain controller in this network called Azure Education or Azure EDU. DC01. This is the actual network interface, but I do have a virtual machine running and connected to this network. So with that said, let's switch back over to our other resource group, which is the new one for our backup and site recovery deployment. It's called ASR Backup Vault. In here, I'm going to deploy all the components required for this solution, and this is where we're going to configure everything. You can see I've already defined the recovery network that was in our slide, and I've already defined those four storage accounts I pointed out. Now, something for clarification, anything you deploy anywhere in the subscription, if it's a virtual machine, it can access storage accounts and networks that are in other resource groups. So if I were to bring online a VM in this storage or in this resource group, there's no reason I couldn't select the virtual network that's in the infrastructure resource group. Those are boundaries for administration and even resource cost roll-ups, so you can understand cost associated with them. So with that said, let's deploy the next major component, and that is the actual Recovery Services Vault. So as always, I'm going to click on plus over here. The best and quickest way to find the Recovery Services Vault is just to do a search. And if you do a search for backup and just hit enter, you're going to see a whole list of solutions that result, and we're going to select the backup OMS solution. So backup and site recovery OMS. That is the Recovery Services Vault. We're going to select that. We do want to create it. And we're going to place this vault in our ASR Backup Vault resource group. And we're just going to call this EDU Vault. Click OK, or click Create, I'm sorry. Now that is being deployed. This only takes just a minute to deploy because it's just a container basically for your metadata. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And what I'm going to do is create a shortcut to that vault from the, and we can see it's completed there on the far right. We're going to create a shortcut to this vault on our dashboard just to make it easier to get in and out of here. So I'm just going to click on the recovery vault. Here it is. And I'm going to click on this option here to pin to dashboard. So we'll in the future get to this vault from that dashboard. Okay, so what I want to point out about this vault is it provides us with a number of things here to think about. Gives us sort of some summary information here. It has an area for monitoring. So if we had things set up, we could see unhealthy servers, events, and updates that are available. We could see more specific information about backups that go into this vault and more specific information about site recovery items in this vault. The other thing I want to point out is there's a whole set of property pages over here. So we have an activity log, what's been going on. We can diagnose and solve problems here. We can even create a new support request that goes directly to a support team to help you out there. Here we have a pane, our buttons here to get started with backup and site recovery. So there's a whole get it started section. We're going to get into that in the next video. We have some general properties for this vault, and this is just information about where it's located, the name of the resource group, and we even have some things we could download here if we're going to do backups, and we'll talk about that in another video. We can see jobs. So we have a monitoring and reports section here where we can see jobs. That would be backup jobs or site recovery jobs. We can also see alerts and events. The great thing about this is you can configure notifications to go to email addresses of your choice. If we were doing backups, we have backup policies here. And then if we're backing up items and replicating items, this is where we'll actually get details about the items that already exist out here. Now, once everything is set up, we can manage our infrastructure here for site recovery, our backup infrastructure here, and our recovery plans here. We're going to take a look at all that in the series, at least the site recovery components. But that's basically the gist of getting the components ready out in Azure. Now we're ready to begin our actual on-premise deployment. Everything is already defined in Azure. So we had to define storage, which I did before the video, networking, which I did before the video, and also the recovery services vault. So with that said, let's move on to the next video where we're going to deploy our first on-premise infrastructure.